hours later.
Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to continue working on the intake manifold for the 67. As you saw in the intro, I've already done a little bit of work on it, did some B-rolls for the charge pipes. I'll show you a little bit more about how I did that. I'm going to go ahead and throw the apron back on the car, try to work on some areas I think need to be trimmed up. I'm going to put the blow-off valve on, try to finish up all the fabrication on the intake side of things today. So let's get started. Alright, so kind of checking everything out. Got a pretty tight clearance here between the compressor housing and the apron itself. Actually, it's touching a little bit right there on the seal lip. Probably have to mark this and kind of notch this a little bit. This apron, obviously it's been modified. I've got quarter turn Zeus fasteners at all four corners here to kind of get this off and on real easy. Works pretty good. This apron itself, 67, 1 year only car. Unfortunately, this apron is pretty beat up. There's a lot of mud in this thing actually. It's been trimmed on a few times already. I've got a replacement, a new old stock one that I'm going to actually replace this with eventually. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and just notch this as necessary. Not trying to get into this project before I finish this. Of course, next up, we'll take a look at the blow-off valve here. So I'm going to use a Turbosmart VeePort Pro. Essentially, I want to lay this out somewhere in this section of piping. I'm planning to use methanol injection for intercooling, and so I want to make sure that I've got some distance between where the blow-off valve is and where the methanol is going to go in. Of course, I want to give the methanol as much time as possible to vaporize and cool the charge, but I want to make sure there's a little bit of distance between these two so that during shifts when this thing blows off that I'm not, run the risk of blowing any methanol out of here. So essentially, I'm just going to kind of take a look at this, figure out maybe where my methanol port is going to go, probably somewhere in this section here. And we'll probably put the blow-off valve somewhere right around here. So I'm just going to lay that out, kind of mark that up. This is a stainless VeePort Pro flange that I picked up from, I think, CB Performance, where I bought the blow-off valve from. It's actually profiled for a 2.5 inch pipe, so it's a little bit wrong profile for this. So I'll need to massage it just a little bit there, but should be able to lay this on there, kind of get the relative location of where I think it's going to go. We'll mark it up here. Mark our port for NPT plug for the methanol injection, and we should be good to go. Alright, so we've got the charge pipe marked up for where I want to put everything. Essentially here for the blow-off valve. Spot for the methanol injection nozzle, which is just going to be an 1/8 inch NPT bung, which I have on hand already. So that's going to be as simple as go ahead and knocking holes in this guy. Like I said, I need to work on the profiling of this just a little bit here to help it fit this 2-inch pipe just a little bit better, or tube, excuse me. And then we should be able to go ahead and set this all up for back purging and weld this all up. One of the things that I did want to kind of point out, saw in some of the other B-roll footage here, the bead roll that I've got on the end of this. So it's pretty important on these charge pipes that there's something for the T-bolt clamp to kind of back up against so it can't just slip out. And that was actually a fairly inexpensive and easy thing to do. There's some really nice bead rolling tools. Furic sells a really nice one. If you're going to do this stuff professionally and do it all the time, absolutely go and buy the correct tool for it. But I think that thing's like over $300, and I need to do about 5 beads. Really, that's all the need that I have right now. So I went with another sort of DIY method. So what you do is you go down to your Harbor Freight or your other, inexpensive tool place, pick you up a set of wire crimping pliers. I'll throw a picture in here. It's real easy to mod actually. You just take these pliers, you cut the end of it off, and you leave just this section here, which is like the innermost part of the crimping section, and that will essentially allow you to crimp the bead roll right into these tubes. So here's a section that I did, you can kind of see up close. It works really well with aluminum tubing. You can actually just use this by hand to crimp the bead. For this 065 wall stainless, actually it's kind of too tough to do it by hand. But what I actually did is put this in there and actually squeeze these in my vise on my bench. I was a little worried if this was going to hold up, but actually I powered through all these beads all except for this one here, because I want to, maybe make sure I don't need to put a little bit more material here once the silicone boots come in. But I was able to make all these beads, and for the money, it works really well, so I can't complain too much. Anyway, let's go ahead and knock these holes in here, get ready to weld this stuff up, and get another thing checked off the list. Alright, so we're ready to get this all welded up. As you saw, I got the 1/8 inch MPT bung profiled to kind of fit down on the pipe real nice. For the blow-off valve flange, actually the hole saw ended up being a little bigger than I anticipated, so this actually just slips right down in. It's a perfect fit. It's going to make it a little bit more challenging to weld it up, but nothing that I can't handle. Basically, we'll slip this in behind to support it. We'll set this all up, get it all burned in. So all that's left really is kind of clean up all these parts and prep them for welding. We'll get the pipe set up for back purging, and we'll go ahead and get it done. All right, guys, I think that's all I got time for today. Hope you enjoyed the footage. Overall, pretty happy with how everything came out. Welding went pretty good. I think this is in a good location. A little bit tricky since I cut that hole a little bit large, but when they're okay. Methport in there ready to go. I should have some silicone couplers and T-bolt clamps coming early next week, so I can check all this, see if I need to do anything else with the material down here before I put my final bead roll on. And then there from the next step is intake air temperature sensor that needs to be welded into this plenum. And then we need to work on tapping the manifolds so we can get all 4 barrels tied to a single point, a small manifold that we can take manifold air pressure from for the ECU. Anyway, that's all going to be upcoming in some follow-on videos here pretty soon. Just waiting for parts to come in and some more time to work on things. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed today's video, enjoyed following along. Again, give me a thumbs up, leave me some comments below, what you like, what you don't like. I'm new to the YouTube thing, just trying to figure it out and having fun. Anyway, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.